Welcome to Modernized Planning, where we explore how organizations can move beyond outdated processes and tools to embrace smarter and more holistic approaches to budgeting, planning, and forecasting. Let's dive into today's episode.
Thanks, Anthony, so much for joining today's episode of Modernized Planning. As the COO of deFacto Global, what does modernized planning mean to you?
Thanks, Dennis. So from our perspective, we're looking at things from a really optimizing business processes. And to do that, you need to look at things holistically, and you need to look at things individually and how they tie together. So from a planning perspective is, let's look at how do we improve the business? How do we look at the business from a high level and understand all the interactions between the planning solution? And then how do we tackle each of these one at a time and then integrate them over time?
Yeah, I think, you mentioned the business processes and really forming your planning and budgeting system around that. How does deFacto help with that process transition going into a new platform?
So, we've been in business as a group for 25 years, and, deFacto as a company has been around since 2008. So we've done hundreds, if not thousands, of these types of projects. We've got IP around that, and we have certainly methodologies around that we followed. And so what we do when we work with a new customer is, and with partners such as Collective, is we go in and look at things from, like I said, at a high level. Let's understand where it is you want to go as a company. We're not just, in the old days, it was, we're just worried about FP&A. That's not the world anymore. It's like, okay, we need fully integrated planning solutions. We need the ability to do HR. We need, demand planning, supply chain, right? All that potentially needs to be part of the solution. So let's take a step back, understand at a high level what it is you're trying to accomplish. So that's kind of the first step we would have with a customer. Probably not much different than what Collective does when they go in and do a data strategy, right? They're looking at things at a high level. And I do think, one of the points that we're seeing is that planning is becoming more integrated into an overall data strategy, as you guys probably know. But whereas before it was kind of an add-on, like, okay, we got our reporting and we got to collect our data and we got to build a data warehouse or whatever it might be. Oh, and by the way, FP&A needs a planning solution. I think now we're seeing that come together and become more one, right? And that's where I think the direction of the market's going to go over time. And we see that. And so we work with our customers around that prospect.
I think that's a really important point, Anthony. You mentioned holistic and also individual needs, the macro and the micro. Can you give some specific examples of how you've seen that change over time and how you've helped clients and customers around those different needs?
Yeah. So, traditionally, and again, we grew up working with, whoever it was, Hyperion S-Base, right, way back when, and then OutlookSoft and SAP BPC and all those types of tools before we started deFacto. And, those tools were basically like, okay, maybe I have an ERP or general ledger system. They were targeted towards finance. I need better reporting. I need planning capability. The reporting out of, such and such ERP is terrible. And I need to improve on that. And so what winds up happening, they were buying these, it could be like a jet reports that basically just fills one need to improve reporting on the ERP, or it could be just a general, what was called a CPM or corporate performance management solution to help bring that data in, typically from a finance perspective, and give you better reporting and the budgeting and planning that goes on top of it. So I think traditionally, that's kind of been what we've seen, and you still have many customers that started out that way that have been with us a long time, and we still see that come up, right? Because sometimes finance just needs a solution, and they come to us and they really like it and they implement it. But I think strategically, what we're seeing is that it goes beyond that, right? And it's much broader than that. And again, I think this is something that we've worked with you guys on with a couple of customers where we see that it's beyond just this point solution that improves our FP&A area, but it's the ability to now look at things holistically across our business, across all aspects of the business, right? And bringing that together in an overall data strategy in which planning is not an add-on, but it is just part of, right? And it becomes where all this becomes one solution and one strategy around data with planning included in that.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think, especially in the engagements that we've had with deFacto, it's all about, not just the planning side. It's not just about the reporting side. It's not just the removing of the data silos and building out your data lakes and your data warehouses. Your true data strategy encompasses all of that. And it all becomes one source of truth across the organization.
Yeah, correct. And we see, over time with the advent of AI, that it's a buzzword, obviously that's everywhere these days. But what we're seeing is AI plays a great role in this, in that, we're using predictive forecasting, machine learning, time series forecasting, things like that to improve forecasts. So that's part of it. We're seeing it with chatbots and things like that, and helping users get up to speed faster or ask questions to be able to use this solution even better. And so over time, what we're seeing, especially around the data, is a lot of this potentially could be automated, but not all of it, right? We never expect a user never to be involved, but we do see where there's opportunity, at least if not to automate, let's say, a demand plan, based on historical trends and things like that. But there's always going to be a new product. There's always going to be a new vertical you're going after, or whatever, a new location, right? Things like that jump in there, where people need to get involved and tweak that information. But I think a lot of that is going to be more automated, and it's going to be more every day, right? So right now, I think we see our users, basically they run reports every day, or they run analysis and do analysis every day. And again, I'm sure you guys see this as well. That's part of what you do. But they're not planning every day, typically, right? They're not forecasting every day. Some, companies are getting closer to that, but they're not typically doing it every day. At best, maybe they're doing it on a weekly or monthly or even quarterly basis. But we see that where it is going to become every day, and it's just going to become part of that overall data aspect of things, where it's reporting, it's planning, it's all that is integrated into one, and it's always happening, right? And that's where we kind of see the market going. We see AI playing a role in that, and that really excites us about where deFacto is going.
Yeah, I think that's really a really important point I want to expand upon. So we talked about obviously improving the processes, not having to fit your planning process into a particular way of doing things because the tool can't handle it. Obviously, part of that is improving, different platforms, which deFacto is one of them. Talk to me about the people aspect, especially with a lot of this automation coming in, the AI coming in. What are you seeing on the ground in terms of, both in the finance department, the other people who are involved with planning and forecasting and data in general? What are you seeing from the people side of things?
I think we're definitely seeing more is expected of people, right? And so they have less time to do more. And so the AI is going to help that, but we don't necessarily see that replacing what they're doing. So what winds up happening is they wind up, building reports, building budgets, doing things like that, and getting stuck in that. And AI will help do that planning. But we see that as just kind of a seeding process because, for instance, we're working with a customer now who is a consumer product goods company, right? And so they're selling into grocery stores and things like that. Well, they probably have say 2,000, 3,000 SKUs, but maybe 700 of those are repeatable, like the same product over and over again. The remainder of those are all made to order. So for those 700 or so, where you kind of is predictable, we have a history. We know how it sells in this location. We have, we can look at history. We can use time series forecasting and come up with a pretty good estimate around that. And maybe they look at it at a high level and we'll tweak it if they see something that looks out of whack. We can apply anomaly detection to it to allow them to do that to see if something is kind of an outlier. And so that helps that process quite a bit. But the other, remainder of all those made to order SKUs, it's not easy for AI or any technology to be able to apply to that immediately, right? You need to think about what it is that is. Every year it changes. It's very seasonal. So in other words, they may have 100 SKUs around Halloween, let's say. Well, next year at Halloween, those 100 are completely different, right? Because they're taking a different strategy to the market, a different approach, and they want to try different things. So they're starting from scratch. There's no data that's going to help you drive where you think that new data is going to go. Yes, there's cases where, like we work also with a restaurant chain where it's a bunch of franchises. And you could say, well, I'm going to bring up this new franchise in this location. We think it's going to operate just like this other franchise did. So we'll use that as a starting point for a forecast, but certainly it's not exact. Those franchises could be 100 miles apart, 1,000 miles apart, whatever it might be. They're just using their gut to say, the ramp up, the excitement, people coming out here and then going down after the lull starts, and all those kinds of things that they see is going to apply, but that's still not going to be perfect. But they can still use that as a starting point and get more accuracy of it. So getting, if you have the data, that's great. That'll help generate, better forecasts. But if you don't have the data, that's where the challenge comes in, and that's where the people have to come in to be part of that.
Yeah. Are you seeing any shifts in the types of clients that you're getting, the sizes of clients, etc.? You mentioned, the original planning tools such as Hyperion and so on. Only the biggest companies with the biggest wallets could afford those. We certainly on the data and analytics side are seeing a shift. What's happening on the planning side of things?
So we are seeing a shift in the market. Again, I think traditionally the planning perspective has been an ERP sale. And like I said earlier, and I still think that applies in a lot of cases. But we're seeing more of our customers trying to take this holistic view of things and approaching it from a different perspective. So whereas we were working closely with the CFO organization historically, and we still do, we're starting to work more closely with the CIO organization where they're seeing that value. And that's where, our partnership with Collective, allows us to do that more, because we're great at planning. We're great at reporting. We're great at this overall integrated planning strategy. But, we need to partner with a company like Collective in order to kind of build out that full data strategy. That's not what we're good at and not where we want to go, but we want to stay focused on what we are good at.
Yeah, partnering is definitely the way to go in terms of our relationship, but definitely in terms of internally as well. I always like to tell a story that back in the day, they used to buy a server, put it under the financial controller's desk, and run up secret planning software because they didn't want to tell the CIO. It's nice to see all those people coming together and actually wanting all of this now.
Yeah, we've lived that situation very specifically with a number of customers. I could picture the server under the desk for sure. So that's pretty funny. Yes, exactly.
One question that always comes up: anyone interested in planning, especially if you come from finance or FP&A, what about good old Excel? Is Excel dead?
No, I think we see it as often as anyone. It's easy, it's available. Everybody has, maybe not everybody, but most people have some skill in it, and many people have a great deal of skill in it. And I think Excel, I always say, well, if you were to build your own personal budget right at home, what would you do? Well, you'd open up an Excel spreadsheet and you'd start there. And that's what we'd all do, especially in our business. I think we would all do the same thing. So I don't think that's going away. I think what winds up happening is that Excel works until it doesn't, right? And then unfortunately you might get burned. And hopefully it's not burned too badly. And then you realize, okay, I need a better way. And so from our perspective, we grew up, like I said, around Hyperion, around tools that were very Excel centric. And when we built deFacto initially, we were very Excel centric as well. And we still are. That's still a core piece of what we do. Except we made Excel bulletproof, right? So you get all the nice parts of Excel, but you don't have to worry about breaking links and security and audit trails, right? All that is taken care of for you, and it's just a window to our data. And that goes for Power BI as well. Is that again, it's just another interface for us, and I'm sure another will come down the path later on at some point in time. But it's the same idea. Is we're trying to build out the tools that people are already using and are comfortable with, because if they do that, they'll use it. And you don't have to spend a ton of time training them. You can just get them up and running really quickly. And we've even gotten to the point where, literally in seconds, you can build a report in Excel and you can use that in Power BI, right? And have full capabilities, the slicers, the drill down, the extraction of data right in Power BI, all that comes along immediately. And so that to us is like really a big benefit, because it puts the power of Power BI in the hands of a data analyst who maybe knows Excel but doesn't know how to create a Power BI report, or doesn't understand how to create a tabular model, right? They don't need to. They just create this report in deFacto. deFacto's platform handles all that for you, and then it serves it up nicely for you right in Power BI if that's where you want to view it, or if that's where you want to plan from. It goes for planning as well, not just reporting, right? So we're trying to make that really easy to choose whatever interface you're more comfortable with.
And I think that's when you talk about change management with an organization, they're taking on a new tool, but they're likely using Excel and Power BI already, right? Yep. That's a big differentiator of deFacto, is that you are using kind of those legacy interfaces, but then you're writing that data back to a consolidated semantic model in Power BI, and ultimately back to some sort of data lake or data warehouse from there. But is that kind of the trend that you're seeing right now with your clients? Is organizations trying to move from Excel into a more updated tool, or is it really organizations that have your Hyperion, your adaptive insights moving over to a tool like deFacto because they already use Power BI for their reporting software?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's both sides of it. I think people who have been burned by Excel can be turned off by our Excel interface, to be honest with you, because they're like, oh, it reminds me of too much of bad scenes that happened before, and they don't want to do that. So I get that. We've seen that. I think it's less so lately, but we've certainly seen it over time. I also think that as the use of Power BI has just become, tremendous, as you guys know, and, if we go into a customer now, we used to sell on the ERP, and most of that was really around Dynamics. So because we're very Microsoft centric, now we go into a customer, it's rare that they're not using or planning to use Power BI. I mean, it's literally like, 5% not planning to use, right? It's 95% they're either using or planning to use. So I do think that is what we're seeing trend wise and the appeal of that for our customers is really exciting. And what happens, and I think that's really what has tipped the scale to go from this financial planning to this more integrated planning, because the financial people love Excel. They still love Excel. We don't want to take that away from them. They would kill us if we did, right? But on the planning side, the integrated planning side, where now you're getting people in the field, salespeople, demand and supply chain people, right, out in the field, it's HR people, they don't necessarily want to use Excel. Some do, right? Then they're comfortable with that, but they're used to now using Power BI. They're getting served up reports and dashboards in Power BI. This becomes an extension of that and makes that really easy for them. So we like to give people the choice. Like I said, you can create in Excel using either place. So it makes it really easy to make that choice. And then if you want to be in Power BI, great. If you don't, that's fine too. It all goes to the same, like you said, same semantic data model. Everything is centralized, same security regardless, right? All that's taken care of for you. So you don't have to worry about doing those types of things. And the platform allows you to create these models that can be independent of one another. But as we say, we want to have this integrated planning solution. So you can have, a financial model where everything comes together potentially as a hub, but then maybe you have a demand planning spoke, or you have a HR and salary planning spoke, or CapEx planning spoke, right? So that's what we allow our customers to do, is build those, that hub and spoke idea, but everything is fully integrated. That data can be shared. You can easily separate security as you need to. And that's, to us, what the beauty of the platform that we bring to the table is versus some of our competitors.
If you're attending the AFP FP&A Forum in March, don't miss your chance to connect with Collective. As event sponsors, we'll be sharing insights on Modernized Planning and showcasing how organizations can leverage the Microsoft data stack to drive smarter decision-making. Be sure to come by and see us at booth number 3 and check out our speaking sessions, where you can learn more about transforming your planning processes.
So, Anthony, in terms of your customers and clients, can you give me one thing that you're most proud of that a client has said about deFacto?
Just yesterday, I reached out to one of our longtime customers. They're a major financial institution in Manhattan, and I hadn't talked to them in a while. So I said, "Hey, we wanted to check in. How are you guys doing? We haven't heard from you." And the managing director responds to me almost immediately. She says, "deFacto is great. It's the only thing that's working for us right now." So just from a recency standpoint, that was something we were really excited about, to hear somebody at that level just responding in that way. But we're really proud of our customer satisfaction. I think the fact that we're not owned by private equity or publicly traded or anything like that, it's employee owned as a company. We've always been that way. It allows us to really focus on our customer and not focus on the quarter, right? Again, a lot of the reason why we love working with Collective is you guys, I think, work very similarly from that perspective. But it is something we're really proud of, to be able to do that.
And so, Anthony, you mentioned kind of competitors, other firms out there. There's obviously other planning and Power BI vendors. There's also, your Adaptives, your Hyperions out there in the world. How does deFacto really differentiate yourselves from the competition?
So I think, we've taken the approach of the integrated planning platform, as I mentioned. I think, there's other products out there, probably like an Anaplan that's more, model generated, much like deFacto. So that's kind of the direction that we go in. Is it's very model centric and platform centric. The goal there being that, it's really targeted toward the business user to be able not only to build reports and build and plan and do those kinds of things, but also to manage the application, which I think is very unique in our space. So to create a model in deFacto literally could take, minutes to hours, at least for a basic one. And you're never getting into the back end. You're never getting into Fabric or Visual Studio or anything like that. It's all done within our model. So it really is appealing both to the business and also to IT, because they know it's repeatable, right? They can do this over and over and over again, and not have to worry, oh, did I do this or did I do that? Or, am I going to miss this? Or later on, do I need to add this back, right? We can add a new dimension in deFacto easily. We could remove one if we don't need it, right? All those kinds of things are just, part and parcel of what we deliver.
And is there anything that's coming up that you can share with us in terms of your R&D and development that you're particularly excited about? There's a few things we're working on that I can't really share, but we're excited about. I think, what I was talking about earlier with this kind of automated planning with AI, we see that directionally as really improving our customers' lives and improving our mantra of business process optimization and the integrated planning, right, for our customers. So I think, we're going to see more and more of that embedded into our processes and how we work with our customers. And then certainly, everything that Microsoft is doing around Fabric, we're able to integrate with Fabric now. Just working within that, we're a Microsoft solution, so that's not changing. We could take in data from anywhere, of course, but our technology is all Microsoft based. So we're very pro Microsoft and pro Fabric. And then so we're going to, as that changes and gets better, we see that as just making deFacto get better, and working with Collective is going to make us all collectively better, for lack of a better phrase, right? So that's something we're excited about as far as where we're going. Well, is it enjoy a good collective pun at the end?
You're welcome. I enjoy a good deFacto pun, right? So yeah, same thing.
And so, Anthony, to wrap up, what advice would you give organizations looking to modernize their planning and forecasting processes?
So the term I've been using lately is you need to plan, right? So don't jump right in because you see a tool that you like. Don't pick a point solution because you think that's what you need. And maybe it is, but think about it. Take the time, understand your requirement, look beyond just what you need. Try to look at things more broadly as a company. I think it gives people the opportunity to really step up in an organization as well. right? Think about if I'm like a director of FP&A and I need a planning solution, but I realize that, the company needs a planning solution, not just FP&A, and I can step up and look at things on a broader basis and really come up with a strategy around planning for my organization. How much better does that look on me? And how much better is that for the organization? And I think that's what we really need to see our customers do, and people doing that before they jump into a planning solution.
Absolutely. I think that's wonderful advice. Anthony, really appreciate all of your experience and all of your insights and joining us here on Modernized Planning.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Darren, Dennis. Always a pleasure. Love working with you guys. Look forward to our next conversations.
Modernized planning is essential for eliminating manual errors, improving efficiencies, and enabling proactive, real-time, data-driven decisions. By leveraging the Microsoft data stack, including Power BI, Azure, Fabric, and AI, you can really streamline processes, integrate data seamlessly, and align your organization with a single source of truth. At Collective, we specialize in implementing tailored planning solutions to meet the unique needs of your business, setting you up for long-term success. If you're ready to transform your budgeting, planning, and forecasting, reach out to us at gocollective.com/contact.